Hi there! Good day to you. I'm Spenta and I'm sharing my onion gardens with you. Today my onions are finally ready to be harvested. I have allowed a few of my onions to actually bolt, and I'll tell you what that means. That's when they flower. It is for seeding purposes. I wanted to save the seeds. So today's video is going to be about my onions, harvesting them, how to harvest them, when is the best time to harvest onions, and planting onions in general, the best climate for onions. And again, I'm Spenta. I'm thankful that you're here today watching my share. Your subscriptions, comments, likes are greatly appreciated, and I'm very thankful for your time. These onions I planted a few months ago. Onions take approximately 110 days depending on the onion, but it takes around 110 days in my area to grow and to mature. What do I mean by this maturity? 110 days or so for maturity growth process. This is actually before the onion bolts. I mentioned earlier the word bolting. What do I mean by that? Bolting means when the onion actually starts to flower. So in this type of condition, when your onion actually bolts, what you want to do is you want to allow it to go ahead and seed. It's much easier to allow your onion to seed if it's showing flowers or signs of flowering. That's because your actual onion quality will not be so good. It means that you allowed your onion to sit in the ground for so long. I did that on purpose. I did that to show my viewers and you what it is like to let your onions grow further than the actual allowance of time, or if your onions are just right there, a good time to harvest. And another thing is, saving onions is very important. So you want to make sure you save seeds, and after harvesting your onions, you are able to save them by braiding them perhaps. That's a really good method to use for onions. So these onions are green up top, but they have onions in the bottom. What I did is I used what's called a bi-weekly planting method. So at the beginning of spring, I planted a few more rows. However, I started to plant my onions in the winter time. Onions, chives, garlics, anything like cabbage family, bok choy, they all enjoy a cooler climate. They are onions, they have bulbs, and they're underground, so they really enjoy that cooler climate. Turnips are the same way, so are radishes. So you want to start planting them early on around the winter time and allow them time to grow so that you do not have the cool climate crops growing during summertime or during heat, because they tend to start becoming bitter. That's something you don't want to do. So let's take a look at my onions and what's going on right now, okay? So each onion that I point to, let's see, this onion in particular right there, that onion is ready to be harvested. However, the onion that's way out back, and I'll go ahead and share that with you, that onion is not good to eat because the onion has bolted. Let's go to it really quickly. Today is a beautiful day. It's still springtime here, beginning of spring, mid-spring. Actually, it's more close to the middle of the spring now, and the weather is doing very good. So far, it has now started to warm up just a little bit, and we are now in the 80s during the daytime, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. See, here you go, those onions right there, they get thicker in the bottom, and they will start to go ahead and bolt right there. They're flowering. That's okay. What that means is you allowed it to grow for too long. It's still okay to eat because, as you can see, the flower hasn't bloomed yet. It's still okay to eat, but I do want to let you know that that onion is going to lose its quality of taste. so it will not be as tasteful as your other onions. Also, it will be some of the onions will actually by size be smaller too, which is interesting. So just keep that in mind, that if you allow it to flower, which is what I highly recommend, if any of your onions overgrow, and now I did this on purpose for videoing to show you, if you grow onions and you allow them to go ahead and overgrow, what is the option? The option is to save the seeds for next season. The option is to save the seeds, allow them to flower, and save the seeds for next season. Now what I'm going to do with these onions is I'm just going to save their seeds, and the rest of my onions, there are about 75 onions that I'm expecting to harvest, and I'm going to braid those onions. That's right, I'm going to use the method of braiding, and I have shared this in my other videos. I also shared these onions when I just grabbed them from the store for a little bit, and I remember that there were so many of them, equaling about 100 onions, but all onions will not survive the cold. So you need to know that, because they're not all, seeds are not all strong. So not every seed is super strong. So you need to keep that in mind. I was expecting about 75 onions of different varieties, red, yellow, and white, and that is the exact, near exact amount. I believe I counted 76 the other day, so that's a good thing. I'm waiting to braid those onions. Now I will not be braiding 76 onions together. As I mentioned earlier in this video, what I did late winter is I started to plant bi-weekly, and a couple of times I actually planted every week. So I wanted to see what my onions would do. I purchased onions at in a bunch, and so all of these came in a very small bunch, and they have now grown into a adequate, beautiful, delicious size to harvest. This onion right here, I'm going to get close to it. It has not bolted. You see, the one behind it has. You see, you can tell because the stalk is a little bit thicker, much thicker actually. This onion is ready. So this is the onion that is ready, that I will be planting. It is, there you go. It's exactly, the sun hits it at the right time where you can't tell, but this is a very good onion. So I will be harvesting onions that are at that size, and I will be braiding them, putting them in a bunch, and I will be letting them dry on a drying rack. And that is what I recommend to do with your onions after your onions are fully grown. And again, if you did on accident allow your onions to bolt, which is flower, it's okay. You can take the seeds and use them for next season. Onions are really easy to grow, easy to care for. Just, you must remember, the timing is very important for planting onions. Onions enjoy cool weather, so keep that in mind. Again, I'm Spenta, ready to harvest my onions. Thankful for your visits, subscriptions, comments, and likes. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I wish you a beautiful day and happy gardening.